Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Benchkowski, if you can leave the room.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our veterans. And for the invocation tonight, Reverend Rick Maisano.
Father, as we stand before you today, Father, we want to thank you for all your blessings upon us as a nation, as in a town. And Father, we thank you for Dave being back and also for Dave Stevens being home. And Father, we want to thank you, Father, for our firefighters. And Lord God, all our first responders and our police, Father, keep us safe. We ask, Father, your blessing upon them and their families. Father, as we embark on this meeting today, we just ask your presence here and your guidance. And Father, let us remember that, Lord, this is the season, Father, that you show love to us by sending your Son as we celebrate his birth. So, Father, we ask your blessing today, your help and your strength. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you. You may be seated.
Councilmember Barbara Bukowski.
Here.
Councilmember Diane Benchkowski.
Here.
Councilmember Anthony Filipski.
Here.
Councilmember Michael Jazinski is absent. Councilmember Brian Pilarski.
Present.
Councilmember Vernon Thompson.
Here.
Supervisor Brian Nowak.
Present. All right. Welcome to the December 9th meeting of the Town Board. Our first order of business this evening is a proclamation for the fine folks at the South Line Fire Company. I'd like to ask the board to join me up front here. I would call forward members of the South Line Fire. I want to thank all of you for coming. And thank Councilman Filipski for helping to arrange all of this. So, the reading proclamation presents itself. It says, whereas the town of Cheektowaga honors the extraordinary bravery, professionalism, and dedication demonstrated by the members of the South Line Fire. And whereas on October 12, 2025, the EMS crews from South Line Fire Company responded swiftly and decisively to an emergency involving an individual suffering cardiac arrest. Whereas on arrival, the South Line Fire Company immediately initiated life-saving measures, including CPR and advanced emergency medical care, acting with exceptional skill and urgency. And whereas their actions directly contributed to saving Honorable Judge Stevens' life, exemplifying the highest standards of public service and reflecting the commitment that the South Line Fire Company brings to our community every day. And whereas the town of Cheektowaga wishes to express its deepest gratitude for the courage, dedication, and compassion shown by these first responders in the face of a life-threatening situation. Now therefore, be it resolved, the town board hereby commends and recognizes the members of the South Line Fire Company for the heroic life-saving actions and his valuable service to Honorable Judge Stevens and our community. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you.
We get a picture with all of you guys. I called an audible on supervisor. Supervisor, I'd like to get a picture of all of you guys. Sure. Thumbs and yours. All
If you'd
right,
like to join in front or behind.
do the best we can.
Just a simple, like, controller, all in the back. How are we doing, Dawn? Can you see everyone?
Probably not,
That's
but I'll do
folks
the
that want to
best.
hide. We're not hiding close here.
All right. It's the best it's gonna be. Yeah, you have something.
All right, with that, we have no presentations for new business this evening, so we're going to move on to our public comment period. This is an opportunity for residents to comment on matters involving the town of Cheektowaga. Each speaker may speak only once. Each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. We have one speaker signed up this evening, and that will be Gary Bork.
I wanted to comment on the resolution for term limits. Generally, I'm in favor of term limits, especially at the congressional, even at the state assembly, senate. When it gets down to local, though, I think we need to look at if we need them. I don't think we need them in Cheektowaga, and I'll tell you why. And I've read Mr. Wolf's articles about it, and I think he makes good points when it comes to the Erie County Legislature, but I don't think he makes good points for Cheektowaga. We have a 7-member town board. 6 of you obtained your seats when you were not incumbents. Only 1 person on this town board is an incumbent. We don't need term limits to prevent incumbents from getting elected. In 2021, 3 board seats were up for election. 1 of the 3 elected was not an incumbent. In 2023, another 3 board seats were up for election. 2 of the 3 were not incumbents who were elected. And in the last election, we had 4 board seats up. And 3 of them, 75%, were not incumbents. We don't have an incumbents problem in Cheektowaga. In fact, the statistics are showing that every time we have an election, fewer and fewer incumbents get elected. We also don't have a problem getting people, like Mr. Wolf cited in the case of the Erie County Legislature. We don't have a problem getting people to run. We had 11 people run for 4 seats last time. We have more than enough people wanting to run. We don't need to solve that problem. Now, again, generally I'm in favor of term limits, but it wouldn't be for any of those purposes. It would simply be to force turnover, that's all. But the way this law is written, it has a lot of problems with it. First, I think that under the Court of Appeals decision in 2023, we have to seriously consider whether or not a referendum is needed, mandatory referendum. I think it is. I think it's hard to say no, but I think it is. So even if you pass a law, you'd have to do a mandatory referendum. Second, the law has a big loophole in it that others have closed. Other municipalities who have adopted these laws have closed. And that is, it talks about a full 4-year term. The loophole would allow somebody to resign on December 30th, take their position January 1, and they will not have served a previous full 4-year term. Other municipalities have put in a provision saying that if you're elected to a full 4-year term, whether you serve it or not, it's going to be counted as a full 4-year term, so you can't do that. So you'd need to change that at a minimum. Other issues you have with this, right now, the way it's written, because it requires a full 4-year term, no one will be impacted by this until 2036. Because none of the people who are recently elected are serving full-year terms. They're serving 3 years. None of the people who are the 3 that are going to be elected in 2027 are going to serve full-year terms. They're going to serve 3 years, and including the supervisors going to serve a 3-year. So nobody gets impacted by this until 2036 at the earliest. The supervisor and the other 3 members of the board won't get impacted until 2038. That's 12 years from now. If you want to put in a term limits law, put in a term limits law that says you get to serve 2 terms. It starts immediately. We'll count at least 1 previous term. So if you had 10 previous terms, only going to count 1. Forget about the consecutive. There's no need to let somebody serve 8 years and come back 4 years later and serve again. Make it 8 years, you get your shot, you're done. If you want to do that, I'm for it. But if you want to do this Mickey Mouse, which says 2038, 2036, I'm against it. The other thing is, I am in favor of the proposed law concerning the vehicles, getting those all as it was proposed. I think that's a good one. So I hope you go forward with that. Thank you.
Having no other speakers, we're going to move on to our public hearings.
Call for public hearing was made at the November 25th, 2025 Town Board meeting, Resolution 2025-801, to hear all parties in interest and citizens to have an opportunity to be heard related to Chapter 58 Animals, Article 1, Control of Dogs, Section 58-4A and Section 58-4B, maximum number of dogs permitted on premises. Be amended as follows. No person shall keep more than 3 dogs 4 months of age or older on any premises in the town of Cheektowaga. The town clerk shall not issue any dog licenses in any instance where more than 3 dogs 4 months of age or older will be kept on any premises in the town of Cheektowaga.
All right, with that, I would like to make a motion to open the public hearing. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Pilarski. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is open. This public hearing is pretty straight for a change that is very much straightforward. It simply calls for a change to our local law to reduce the age of dogs from 6 months to 4 months that the section of the law covers. With that, we have no one signed up for the public hearing. Would any members of the town board like to speak on this proposed change? All right. Seeing none, hearing none from the town board. Would anyone from the public like to speak before we move to close the public hearing? All right, seeing none, hearing none, make a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Thompson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This public hearing is closed.
Public hearing number 2. The call for public hearing was made at the November 25th, 2025 Town Board meeting, Resolution 2025-825, to hear all parties in interest and citizens to have an opportunity to be heard related to local law intro number 8 of 2025, a local law to amend the Town of Cheektowaga zoning law, Section 260-53A, or Section 260-53 called Limitations on Permitted Uses in Businesses and Manufacturing Districts, Section 260-37A1I1 of the 260-37, adding a new section, 260-59.1, entitled Bulk Storage of Combustible or Flammable Liquids, shall be added to Article 6 Supplemental Regulations, and 260-59.1, Bulk Storage of Combustible or Flammable Liquids.
That, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing. Is there a second on that? Second from Mr. Filipski. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the public hearing is open. We have nobody from the audience signed up to speak. This proposed local law pertains to above-ground storage tanks. Mr. Attorney, would you like to speak briefly on the proposed change? Or the addition to the code, rather?
So,
I will. This was prompted by some requests that came through our zoning board of appeals. We do not have any allowances in our current code for above ground storage tanks for bulk storage. We've had some inquiries from properties, I believe near the airport, some of our rental cars where it's very expensive to put in the underground storage. And quite frankly, since that law was put into place, it's probably safer and more easily monitored to have above ground storage tanks when you're talking about double wall containment, the ability visually to see whether or not we have leaking joints or fixtures. So this is, I would say, to fill a gap that we never considered as a town, and that there's a significant need for it.
Very much. With that, any questions, comments, concerns from members of the town board? Okay. Seeing none and hearing none, we'll last go with the audience. Would anyone in the audience like to speak before we close this public hearing? All right, seeing none and hearing none, I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second? Second from Ms. Bukowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This public hearing is closed. That moves us on to board discussion. Is there any old business from council members this evening? How about any new business? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda announcement. A consent agenda is contained in this meeting. The consent agenda is designed to assist making the meeting shorter and more efficient. Items left on the consent agenda may not be discussed when the consent agenda comes before the town board. If any council member wishes to discuss a consent agenda item, please tell me now, and I will remove the item from the consent agenda, and it will be added as a separate resolution item. This evening, I have 4 after discussion with some council members. Madam Clerk, I'd like resolutions 830, 835, 837, and 838 removed from the consent agenda.
Would like to make one announcement, Supervisor, and that is since Councilmember Jazinski is not here tonight, we do have a replacement sponsor on Resolution 2025-852, that is Tunnel to Towers Special Event. Councilmember Pilarski is going to be the second sponsor on that. And late in the day today, about 3:00 p.m., we had a change in Resolution 2025-843. That resolution had an additional whereas added, so I want to just make sure everybody is aware of that. That is the General Technician Services Agreement with AEC-OM USA.
Are there any other resolutions council members would like removed from the agenda? Councilmember Venchkowski?
Yes, I'd like to just remove 2025-827.
27.
Any others? Councilman Filipski?
2025-845.
845.
Are there any others? Madam Clerk, I believe we're all set.
We have resolutions that were pulled from the consent agenda of Resolution 2025-827, 830, 835, 837, 838, and 845. That makes 6 items.
Yes, 30, 35, 37, 33, 45.
43.
No, she was talking about with Jazinski not being here to changing it.
Oh, I see what happened. There's an additional whereas on 843.
Correct. That was okay. I need a motion and a second to approve the meeting agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll second. Down here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Separate items that were on the table. I need a motion and a second to waive the rules to include Resolution 822, 823, and 824 to the table, one or all items.
I'd like to make a motion to take all items off the table.
I'll second.
Councilmember Filipski. All in favor?
Aye.
At Resolution 2025-822.
I'd like, oh, do you want to read it or what do you want to do? I'm sorry.
We have an amendment that is being offered from Resolution 822 by Councilmember Benchkowski.
You want to go through it, Kim, or do you want me to? It's up to you. Okay.
Resolution 2025-822. Whereas pursuant to New York State Town Highway Law, we're adding highway in the first whereas. 284, the town board and the town highway superintendent are required to annually execute a written agreement. That's the 284 agreement, specifically the highway repair and improvements projects to be undertaken during the fiscal year, together with the amount of town funds to be expended on each project. Whereas the 284 agreement for the fiscal year 2025 was duly approved by the town board of Cheektowaga on August 12th, 2025 by Resolution 2025-498, properly executed by the town supervisor, the town board members, and the town highway superintendent. Town board has reviewed expenditures, projection actions, procurement records, and project schedules undertaken by the highway superintendent during the 2025 fiscal year. Such review has revealed that the highway superintendent approved or initiated expenditures, work orders, or highway projects not authorized in the 2025-284 agreement, and or failed to carry out projects expressly authorized within the agreement, thereby acting outside the scope of the town highway law. We're adding highway there again. Town board of the town of Cheektowaga hereby formally determines that the highway superintendent has violated the terms of the 2025 town highway law. Again, adding highway. Resolved that the town board directs the town supervisor, the town controller, we're adding the town controller in that last resolved, and the director of finance to immediately review all highway fund accounts, halt any further unauthorized expenditures, and require that no additional highway projects be commenced unless expressly authorized in writing by the town board and consistent with the town highway law. Again, adding highway. Resolved that the certified copy of this resolution shall be provided to the town highway superintendent, the town attorney, director of finance, town controller, and New York State Office of State Controller, divisions of local government, and school accountability.
All right, on the question. We'll start with Councilmember Benchkowski. She's a sponsor on the item. Then we'll go over to Mr. Plarski.
Okay, I know that at the last meeting, I think Councilmember Pilarski had questions. There were several, well, actually, I only know of 3 streets that were, this micropaving was added where we did not amend the 284 agreement. All he had to do, the highway superintendent had to come to the board and ask for us to amend the agreement before and did the work and spent the money. So there was South Creek, Countryside, and Roycroft are the only ones I know of. Maybe there's others out there. I didn't go check them out. So I don't know if you checked any of the other ones.
So my reservations on it was just making sure the verbiage and the wording was correct because I received it prior to the meeting, a couple hours before.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't disagree with the purpose of this resolution. Yes, streets from Michael approved. He did it, was warned, and then did 2 other streets afterwards. So totally get the intent of this. I would only like to amend the second to last resolved, where it says, resolved that the town board reserves all rights and remedies available under New York state law, including but not limited to corrective action plans, withholdings of further appropriations, referrals to the Office of State Comptroller or the Office of Attorney General. And this is where I'd like to or any disciplinary or enforcement procedures permitted under law, because the way it reads now, it means like we're going to do all of that. If we decide to take any action, it would be all or nothing. So I would just like to have the or piece put there, because any piece of that then could be whether it's just a corrective action plan or you
Last
go all
resolved?
the second to last.
Okay, so, but it does say including but not limited to. So it's not like you have to do them all. It was just including. But I understand. I mean, I'm fine with and or.
All right. There's a formal amendment and a second. All in favor of the amendment? Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries.
Resolution as amended. Can we do a second vote on that, please? Because that was just for the amendments. Resolution 2025-822, we are voting on as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Resolution 2025-823. We have an amendment offered by Councilmember Benchkowski again. We will start 2025-823, sponsored by Councilmember Benchkowski, Filipski, Thompson, and Bukowski. Whereas at the February 25th, 2025, town board for the appointment of 1 additional automotive mechanic working crew chief, otherwise known as a working crew chief. Said requested appointment was defeated by the town board at all 3 meetings due to the fact that the 25 adopted highway budget no longer contained funding for 6 working crew chief positions. Upon the retirement of General Crew Chief Tony Lewandowski, the highway superintendent appointed Mark Cartenuto to fill the general crew chief position. As a result, the working crew chief position previously held by Mr. Cartenuto was eliminated, and the 2025 and the 2026 adopted highway budget. The 25 and 26 adopted highway budget, as approved by the town board, includes funding for 5 working crew chiefs and 1 general crew chief, and no additional working crew chief titles or budgetary appropriations exist beyond these authorized positions. Added to the resolution are the additional 2 whereas. Whereas in 2017, the town of Cheektowaga had bargained in good faith with the TCSU and had negotiated a memorandum of agreement dated 5/16/2017, adding 1 principal engineer assistant to the TSCU and a modification to the minimum staffing number section 3.05B of the TCSU collective bargaining agreement from 18 to 19 members, specifically stating the town may reduce the workforce to 19 members through attrition by death, retirement, or voluntary separation. And the additional whereas that we're adding, the language in section 3.05B in the TCSU collective bargaining agreement has consistently been included in all successor TCSU collective bargaining agreements since 2017. And whereas during recent contract negotiations with the town of Cheektowaga Supervisory Unit, culminating in the ratification and adoption of new collective bargaining agreement under Resolution 2025-449, dated July 18th, 2025, included the same language in the 5/16/2017 Memorandum of Agreement. That statement is in addition as well. Under Section 3.05A of the CBA, to 19 employees, providing the town any opportunity to save hundreds of thousands of dollars annually per position eliminated currently and in the future. Despite these negotiated cost savings, the highway superintendent continued additional payment of wages to individuals in positions not authorized or budgeted in the 25 or 26 fiscal years. Town Highway Law 118 assigns the town board the responsibility to audit all claims against the town, and the Town Law 119, Section 119, grants the board the express authority to take evidence, examine witnesses, issue subpoenas, and require sworn testimony in determining the validity and legality of such claims. The town board for the town of Cheektowaga hereby directs the superintendent of highway to immediately cease and desist from paying an additional automotive mechanic working crew chief wages to any individual not occupying a duly authorized and budgeted working crew chief position as listed in the 25-26 adopted budget. The town board hereby places the superintendent of highway on formal notice that any future unauthorized wage payments made to individuals in unbudgeted or unauthorized working crew chief or similar supervisory titles may constitute an illegal and unauthorized expenditure, and the town board expressly reserves the right to pursue personal recovery, surcharge, or other legal remedies against the superintendent for any such unlawful disbursements, so that the financial burden shall not fall on the taxpayers of the town of Cheektowaga.
On the question,
Um,
Councilmember Benskowski.
I did want to make an amendment to the amendment. I noticed in that first additional, whereas adding the amended, I said TSCU instead of TCSU. So clerk, if you could change that one.
Typo? Yes.
I just wanted to explain that giving this resolution more thought, I looked at the TCSU contract or collective bargaining agreement, and I had forgot that we had signed a memorandum of agreement. It was in this last book that was printed in 2020, but I know that we've been just dealing with the PDF copies since then, that there was, we had to add the principal engineer assistant title into the TCSU. And because of that, the TCSU asked us to include in their section about the minimum staffing number to add, it was 18, they wanted us to add 19. So that's where this 19 comes from, is this, and I, you know, it's in this book if you have it. If you don't, I have a PDF, and I'm sure Tammy does, that there was an agreement made with that minimum staffing to go to 19. Through attrition, of course, that language was included in this resolution also. So that's where this all came from.
Any other council members? Lars, oh, did you want to speak? Oh, no, you're on the item as a sponsor. You get privilege. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Councilman Pulaski.
All right. So I guess I'm just wondering what the intent of this is. I know the intent of the first resolution, you know, highway superintendent did jobs he wasn't supposed to. I disagree with this resolution simply because he's within his budget. He's allowed to hire who he wants. This was all messed up from beginning with, you know, MOU agreements and what was going to be done prior to, you know, the first draft contract that we were at the finish line with, and it got pulled back. Then we went to arbitration, working things out and ironing it out. So it was all messed up from the beginning. It was just a hot mess. This looks like a, you know, I'm trying to go and get you a highway superintendent resolution, which is fine. I get it. But the person who's going to suffer from this is this working crew chief. What's the plan for this working crew chief? Has anybody thought, yeah, that's it. We just shrug our shoulders, toss him on his ass right before Christmas. We're not paying him or anything.
He'll go back to his old.
So there's no plan now. See, that's the thing, is we're going to pass a resolution here without a follow-up plan. What is the next step procedures to this? So if we can have a plan to this to say, hey, look at this was done wrong. If it was or wasn't, I disagree. I don't think it was done wrong. But let's say, for the sake of argument, let's say he was completely wrong, and I do agree. What is our next actions and our follow-up plans to this besides saying, hey, we now held Rick to the fire because he did something wrong? But who's really losing out here? This working crew chief at the end of the day.
Well, my advice would be that you work something out with this working crew chief, that he would have to go back to his old position until another working crew chief opens up, which I know might be some coming up in the next year.
Okay, but we have not sat down and talked about this at all as a group, or even with the highway superintendent or with the TCSU. None of that. We're putting a resolution on here to try to, hold Rick accountable, whether he's right or wrong on this. I'm not saying he is or isn't, but in the end, the loser in this resolution, if it's passed today, is that working crew chief as we walk out of here tonight.
Fortunately.
My recommendation would be not to move forward with this right now, whether it goes back on the table. I don't know if we could put it back there or we vote it down and then revisit this. Does action have to be taken? Yeah, I think we need to discuss this more. Nothing has been discussed on this. So that's my recommendation on it all.
I've got a procedural question on the amendments. We will be taking a vote to approve the proposed amendments to this, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to confirm that. Any other council members wish to speak on the item? Councilman Filipski, and then we'll go to Mr. Thompson.
Excuse me, I understand. And I agree with what you're saying about, potentially kind of screwing this guy. But they also should have thought about that in February, March, April, when they kept pushing this resolution and we kept telling them no and why. So this ain't on us. This has been going on since February. The way I look at it, in the supervisor's budget for 25, it clearly states, the CBA states, this position's not being funded due to a retirement. I think it's,
But the CBA didn't say the position was being eliminated, correct? So the position still is in the inventory. It's not being funded. I agree with that. But what's stopping now from putting in a transfer of funds with whatever funds? He's not over his budget. So whether it's a transfer of funds from anywhere within that department towards the payroll piece, he's still within his budget. Now, if he was out of his budget and created this position, the money's not there, that's the issue. The position was never eliminated from the inventory. Therefore, he could technically and legally staff anybody he wants and pay for it, unless I'm incorrect on this. And if I am, legal, let me know.
There was a controller's opinion.
Just a moment, Councilmember Benchkowski. Mr. Thompson?
So I'm just, since we're on the discussion of this, wondering how long we will go in circles on the same concerns and issues, whether it's the highway department, because, yes, he's an elected official, but we're talking about dollars and cents and negligence as far as the spending goes. That seems to be a pattern. And at what point are we going to say, okay, something needs to be addressed and we need to have some sort of corrective action? I'm not saying it needs to be today, but it's a pattern that just continuously keeps happening, and it's a problem. I mean, it needs to be discussed on what our corrective action can be, because I'm certainly not looking to have it affect, our staff who do a great job, especially, you want to look at the facts. Yes, it's, not ideal. It's Christmas time. I'm sure I don't know how long this person has been with the town. I would imagine quite a bit if he's in this position. So I'm not looking to, do anything that's a detriment to him, because nothing's been done, on his behalf in the wrong. But, you have an individual who's supposed to be representative of the town and who continuously just, thumbs his nose at everybody and says, oh, I'm going to do what I want. I can hire who I want. But there's got to be somewhere where we can stand together to say, okay, this has got to stop. And that's where I'm at with this. We need to do something and not just keep sweeping it under the rug. But I'm not looking to, put harm to this individual, because it's not his fault.
I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, if he's playing cowboy over there, doing his own thing, not following rules, procedures, and especially laws, absolutely held accountable. But at the end of the day, it seems like the real loser at this, right now, if we were to go with this, is the working crew chief. There's no plan on, hey, where does this crew chief move to? What position? Is it available? Is the old one back? How does it have a domino effect? Do we put him back to his old position and then somebody else gets bumped out? Because there's no plan, I'm not comfortable with this. But I agree with you. There's got to be accountability if, rules and laws and the guy's going cowboy on it all. I agree.
Councilmember Benchkowski, you're up.
Yes, I did want to refer to the, I don't know, there's several whereases, but the one that starts out pursuant to New York State Controller Opinion 8934. While the highway superintendent has statutory authority to select individuals to fill highway positions, the town board possesses the exclusive authority to determine the number and civil service titles of employees in the highway department and to fix the budgetary appropriations for each title, including general and working crew chief positions. So that's, I think, why we feel that the town board has authority over the highway superintendent when it comes to this, because number one, we have these titles that we put in the budget, and in each line says how many you have of each title. We're saying you can hire whoever you want in that title, but these are the number of people you have to fill in that title. So that is, to me, is one of the items that we should be looking at. And also when it comes to the collective bargaining agreements itself. And I know you, Councilmember Pilarski and Supervisor Nowak worked hard on working with the TCSU to get a new contract. And, you know, you had to give up things, but we also had this in our arsenal from 2017, stating the number could go down to 19 through attrition. And we've had attrition going on all along. So he's kind of bypassing that part of it that does not help the town board for future budgets. And it also does not help any other department who might need a working or a general foreman's position, you know, and trying to stick within these limitations, because this is a very high paying title. I mean, we can't argue the fact. It's an hourly title, very high paying more than some of our department heads that are non-union. So to me, I think it's just being fiscally responsible, following the union contract and following the controller's opinion and spelling it out to the highway superintendent. These are the titles you have. You fill them however you want, but this is how many you have in each title.
I just think you're all over the place on why you want to enact this resolution. You just said it yourself, where the highway superintendent has the right to hire who they want, and it's the town board that decides the number of positions and what titles they are. They're still in the inventory, therefore they're still allowed. Until we remove it, it's not the budget that dictates what titles get funded, because you do budget transfers and move money around. I disagree with your opinion on that, and then you jump and say, hey, another department could use that title somewhere else, because, you know, so you're all over the place on why you want it.
His inventory, just so you know, it's in the town's inventory from civil service. We get so many number of titles, or say we want so many working crew chiefs.
Yes.
We want an extra one, we have to go to the county to get one approved. So that's our inventory, not the highway department's inventory.
The only thing I have to say on this one is that there's a piece of information that is not really part of this, and it's that the elimination of this position was contingent on approval of a particular iteration of the TCSU contract. That was never approved. It's the reason I will abstain from any amendments to this resolution, and it's the reason I will be a no on the resolution. Any other council members wish to speak? Madam Clerk, go ahead, Councilman.
I was just going to ask, what was that agreement that you're referencing? And once this comes to fruition, you have a deal, where is this logged? Is it with the clerk so that we can reference, okay, what happened in 2019? What was added? What was taken away? Where is this information?
The town board approved a TCSU contract that was an amended version of what was brought to the town board previously. This was resolutions that were defeated and approved. One particular item had to do with the TCSU taking on the duties of the deputy highway superintendent. That was in an earlier iteration. It was not in the final. Another one had to do with the briefing pay. There was a difference between the initial proposal that this was contingent on and what was finally approved. So there were two different versions of that contract that were approved. Negotiations at one point broke off, and then they started over. They started again. And Again, that's just my reasoning, plain and clear is why I'll be a no tonight.
I guess maybe I'm not asking correctly. So I just walk in today. Where are the agreements, MOAs, MOUs for 2018?
I can get you
And what has changed from then until today? Because there seems to be a lot of disconnect in what is actually in there and what isn't.
each new council
Does
member,
that make sense?
each new council member should have been given copies of each of these contracts via PDF when they first joined the board. I'm certain they were. And as far as the changes, they are public document, and they were part of the approved changes to the contract when we voted on this. I want to say earlier this year, might have been even at the end of 24. It's all blurring right this second. So I believe it was earlier this year.
But this was the last full one that was printed. And yes, so the memorandums of agreement are in this printed one. That's why sometimes it's important to print the book or have the PDF full one printed so you can see, because they sometimes don't add this language in there, although they did. It's section 305B. They changed it in this contract from 18 to 19, because I looked at the old one before 16, and it had 18 we could go down to. So when we added this additional title into the TCSU unit for the principal engineer assistant, they made us put in this paragraph 5. The TCSU and the town agree that section 305A of their CB will be amended to read 20. We have to go up to 20. We could go up to 22 employees, and through attrition, it says 305B is to read 19. We could go down to. So that was from 17. So I also found an email I had from Brian Kraus when I came back on the board. This was, I think, in February. Well, what is the head count of the TCSU? And he had a list here, and it was 20 members. So we were over the 19 at that point, and nobody has retired since. So why would we go up to 21 when we don't have to? We can go to 19. And this is what we were telling Rick the whole time. So there's this memorandum of agreement, and I can send that to you. I have a PDF of this.
Look, in 2023, we went above the minimum number in the TCSU. We added a member to the bargaining unit. We have gone above the minimum at that point. I'd like to call the question.
Sure.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Rushing this conversation.
Roll call vote on
Nothing gets
resolution
done.
2025-823, sponsored by Councilmembers Benchkowski, Filipski, Thompson, and Bukowski. A roll call vote, Councilmember or Supervisor, on the amendments or the resolution as is.
The amendments first, and then the resolution as a whole.
Okay, so resolution 823 with the amendments offered by Councilmember Benchkowski. Is there a second on those amendments? We have a second by Councilmember Filipski. Councilmember Bukowski?
On roll call? No, on the amendment.
Oh, he seconded.
I'm sorry, that was me.
Yeah, Councilmember Filipski seconded it. I'm doing a roll call vote
Oh, that's right.
on the amendments. Yes.
Okay, yes.
Councilmember Benchkowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Filipski?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilarski?
No.
Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
Supervisor Nowak?
I abstain.
Amendments have passed. Resolution 823 as amended. Councilmember Bukowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Benchkowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Filipski?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilarski?
No.
Councilmember Thompson?
No.
Supervisor Nowak?
I am a no.
On to Resolution 2025-824. We have amendments offered by Councilmember Benchkowski. Sponsors are Councilmember Benchkowski, Filipski, Bukowski, and Thompson. Amendments by Councilmember Benchkowski include, whereas policies relating to the use of town vehicles were adopted by prior town boards on February 3rd, 1992, February 18th, 1992, April 16th, 2015, February 18th, 2015, and March 13th, 2018. Policy regarding the use of town vehicles needs to be amended. Therefore, be it resolved, effective immediately, the following rules shall apply to the use of all town vehicles. This is new in the resolution, excluding those vehicles used by the police department due to the fact that the police department has their own use of town vehicle policy in place. The rules include, number one, all town vehicles and equipment assigned to department heads or other town employees shall be for official town business only. Two, no personal use of town vehicles and equipment shall be permitted. Three, no town vehicles or equipment shall be permitted to be kept overnight at the private residence of any town officer or employee, excluding those vehicles used by, we are eliminating captain, the Director of Emergency Services, and any employee with any approved travel authorization from the board. 4, only town employees with a valid New York State driver's license are permitted to be drivers of town vehicles. Valid New York State driver's licenses means a New York State issued driver's license or New York State commercial driver's license, which has not expired, been suspended, revoked, or canceled. Number 5, a copy of every employee's New York State driver's license who is authorized to drive a town vehicle must be supplied to the town's personnel department and be kept on file. 6, only town employees are permitted to be passengers in town vehicles, excluding, we are eliminating, these vehicles used by the chief of police, assistant chief of police, police captains, designated police vehicles, and transportation vans used by the senior services department and the youth and recreation department stays. 7, all town vehicles must be satellite-based navigation GPS system installed. 8, town vehicles and equipment, we are adding, excluding the Director of Emergency Services, and the rest of it stays, shall not be permitted outside the Erie County without an approved authorization from the town board in an emergency situation. Resolve the following procedures and rules shall apply to all town vehicles, excluding those vehicles ended at 8. So 9 and 10 stay the same, and the resolved A, B, C, and D are the same. Resolved that this amended policy related to the use of town vehicles shall supersede and replace prior policies adopted on the dates specified earlier.
All right, on the question.
I think it was the chief had made us aware that they have their own policy in place, which kind of made sense that we didn't include them in the use of town vehicles policy. So that's why we changed that for that purpose.
Thank you for that. I had 2 concerns with this, and the police department's policy being noted here, that addresses one of them. The other has to do with the working crew chiefs and the general crew chief in the sewer department. So the resolution here cites 92, it goes to 2015, 2018. And from the earliest iterations of vehicle policy to the most recent, the versions of that vehicle, of those vehicle policies made mention of the 3 folks in the sewer department, the general foreman and the 2 working crew chiefs. Part of the intent of the policy with excluding the police department and excluding the highway superintendent in parts and the chief of police in parts and the emergency services manager are when stuff hits the fan, that you want people to get to the scene of an issue as quickly as they can. It's the logic of why chiefs and assistant chiefs at the fire districts are given vehicles to where they can respond to the scene of an incident more quickly. They've got their gear in the back, and if they're running a fire call, or they're doing scene management, or they're just responding, generally speaking, you have somebody there more quickly to address the issue. A similar logic goes to the sewer department. You have a department that is managing really serious stuff for over 25,000 properties in town. And by having working foreman and a general foreman that have these vehicles, they can respond more quickly to the lift stations, pump stations, or even to a particular residence if there's an issue. And that difference of 30 minutes can prevent backups in the basements. You can address any issues with equipment more quickly. And I think that was some of the thinking that was reflected in these previous policies. And that's why I would like to offer an additional amendment under number 3 in the resolved, where we add back the sewer department working crew chiefs and the general crew chief as they were in the February 1992 policy, as they are in the 2018 policy, and other versions of our vehicle policy. So I'll make the amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Amendment.
Sure.
I would tend to agree with you if things haven't changed, but things have changed in the sewer department since the last, well, actually probably since 1992. The sewer department used to do their own sewer repairs, but now it's a simple phone call to our outside contractor to do a sewer repair in the middle of the night. And you're just focusing on the sewer department instead of, what about a snowstorm? What about the highway then? Why aren't those foremen allowed to take their vehicles home then? So I thought it would be only fair that we just allowed the director of emergency services. He's the only one that really needs his to be taken home. And the others, we don't allow the highway foreman to take theirs home. So, and things, like I said, and the other issue is things have changed with the sewer department over the years since 1992.
Talking issues with snowstorms, that was probably the rationale going back to 1992, where the highway superintendent and the deputy highway superintendent were exempted and able to take their vehicles home so they can address some type of those emergencies. There's emergency language in this resolution, but if that gets us to the question of the duty foreman and things like that, I was thinking about bringing that up tonight, but I figured I didn't want to complicate this any more than it was going to be complicated with just bringing up the sewer employees. I figured it was just by bringing up these crew chiefs in sewer and the general foreman in sewer, who have been exempted in all these vehicle policies over the years, I thought that was a common sense, reasonable item to bring up that hopefully we can find consensus on. But I understand what you're saying about the highway employees. Maybe we have to add them to this in the future. But at this time, I'm looking for something that we can get 6 votes on to 0 that we can all agree on. And it's very important to me that we continue to have our sewer general foreman and these working crew chiefs in, because we don't have outside contractors for the lift stations. Our guys have to respond to those things. And if there's a delay of going to the sewer department, picking up a vehicle and then going to a station, that can set a call back, a response to 20 minutes, maybe more, delaying a response to things, So.
Supervisor, I just wanted to point out for sewer maintenance, they would be using their vehicles generally to respond to complaint calls that they receive after hours or on weekends. And they do the SCADA system where they monitor our pump stations. And when issues come up, they do respond to the stations.
Like a mandatory overtime then?
I believe they only get paid for overtime when they're actually responding to a call.
Councilmember Benchkowski?
Well, not necessarily. It's, which this language isn't even, which drove me crazy, is not in the TCSU contract, is the duty foreman gets the overtime. So what happens, and they don't even mention a duty foreman in the collective bargaining agreement, which I think we should have that in there, is they rotate the duty foreman. So 1 week, one foreman is the duty foreman, second week, but they get paid extra for that week they're duty foreman. And then if they do get a call, then they get overtime, plus the duty foreman overtime. So they do get extra.
Any other discussion on the question? All right, Madam Clerk, can we take a vote, can we take a vote on the amendment from Councilmember Benchkowski first and then my amendment?
Second to the amendments offered by Councilmember Benchkowski.
I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, we have a question
That's
from,
what I just wanted to ask, because you proposed an amendment.
and I had a second from Mr. Pilarski.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
Councilmember Benchkowski proposed an amendment prior to me, but the clerk is asking now for a second on that one.
No, I second that.
Okay.
I think I'm just.
Second, so I have Councilmember Benchkowski with a second from Councilmember Filipski on the amendments that Councilmember Benchkowski has offered. We are doing a roll call vote on that. Councilmember Bukowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Benchkowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Filipski.
Yes.
Councilmember Pilarski.
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson.
Yes.
Supervisor Noack.
Yes.
Amendments offered by Councilmember Benchkowski and Filipski have passed. We had a second amendment offered by Supervisor Noack and seconded by Councilmember Pilarski. We are taking a roll call vote on that.
Repeat the amendment, clerk.
If you could do that, Supervisor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it would
where-
be under the resolve, the first resolve, item number 3. It would be an addition of the general foreman and the working crew chiefs in the sewer department, as denoted in the February 3rd, 1992 policy and the March 2018 policy.
Roll call vote on that. Councilmember Bukowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Benchkowski.
No.
Councilmember Filipski.
Yes.
Councilmember Pilarski.
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson.
No.
Supervisor Noack.
Yes.
That amendment has been approved. We are taking a vote on Resolution 824 with both amendments. Councilmember Bukowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Benchkowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Filipski.
Yes.
Councilmember Pilarski.
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson.
Yes.
Supervisor Noack.
I'm a yes.
Resolution 824 has passed with both amendments. That is the end of our tabled items. I need a motion and a second to approve all items on the consent agenda, including the meeting minutes of November 25, and in including resolution items 826 through 852. We will recognize the items that were removed as 827, 830, 835, 837, 838, and 845. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Pilarski and Councilmember Bukowski, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call vote on the remaining items. Councilmember Bukowski,
Yes.
Councilmember Benchkowski,
Yes.
Councilmember Filipski,
Yes.
Councilmember Pilarski,
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson,
Yes.
Supervisor Noack
Yes.
are approved. We have Resolution 2025-827, sponsored by Supervisor Noack, seconded by Councilmember Bukowski. The following vouchers and warrants submitted to the town of Cheektowaga prior to December 9th, 2025 are hereby audited and approved by the town controller and made part hereof. Total of the warrant is $9,661,734.56.
Question, Councilmember Benchkowski.
Yes, I had talked to the controller, which I thought he was going to be here tonight. And I don't know if anybody else went through the warrant, but there's a couple of these invoices that had no detail as to what we're paying. One of them was from CMH. There's only a cover invoice, but there's nothing else as far as detail for each item that what we're paying for. So he was going to be the controller was going to be working on getting that to me, and he did not. So I think I'd like to pull that one off the warrant and possibly pay it then the next one once we look at it, because I think we can't make an informed decision unless we see these detailed tickets or whatever you want to call it to the actual summary, the summarized invoice. And I think that also is the same, and maybe, I don't even know what this is for, this UDIG invoice. There's no detail as to the locations that they marked. And it's not for the lighting, because the lighting had a different, in the warrant, it's UDIG has a different number that it's pulled from. I forgot what it was, but there's all different activity on there, but there's no, you can't even make heads or tails of what they're charging us and for what. It just says quantity, 231, rate $2, which is what, per hour, or, and the amount was $462, but we have no location. Did they mark underground? Why did they mark it? Why aren't we calling the underground number for some of these? I can see us not having to call for, our lighting project is different. We're using a different company for underground. So until we know exactly what we're being charged for, I can't see us making an informed decision on this one either. Just says email, but unless Pat, you know what this is for, by any chance do you dig?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
So I'd like to pull that one off the warrant also, till we can get more information on that. But those are
Councilmember,
mine.
we would need the amounts that you're looking to withdraw from the warrant so we can
All right,
size it.
let me just open these two, hold on. Thought I did anyway. Okay, so the UDIG amount $2,067.76. It's actually from a highway line, so I don't know what it's for. And the other one was for the CMH invoice, which all we could gather was it was coming out of community development funds, but we wanted to see the actual bill. And that total amount is $29,570.
Development.
Yes, well, it just says it's a 700 number, 700.1024.0300.
Or Mr. Kraus over here does some adjustments to the numbers. Is there a second to this amendment that Councilmember Benchkowski is offering?
I'll second it.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Up with new numbers on that, and then we can do the final vote for the amended resolution. We'll move on to Resolution 2025-830, sponsored by Councilmember Bukowski, seconded by Councilmember Thompson. Notice is hereby given that pursuant to municipal home law of the state of New York, a public hearing will be held before the town board of the town of Cheektowaga on the 30th day of December 2025 at 5:30 p.m. at the town of Cheektowaga Town Hall, Council Chambers, 3301 Broadway Street, to discuss and if need be, act upon the proposed enactment of intro to local law, intro number 9 of 2025, titled A Local Law Creating a Chapter in the Town Code titled Term Limits. The proposed local law intro is attached and briefly summarized.
On the question, would either of the sponsors like to speak first?
Sure. I just kind of think it's important about this term limits. And yes, that's something 2 years ago I had campaigned for. However, coming on board, obviously there was other more pressing issues and concerns that needed to be addressed. And this kind of did take a little bit of a back burner. However, back in summertime, I did speak with our town attorney and to question him about getting this on a referendum. Let the taxpayers decide and vote on this. But there's a process. And again, you have to have the public hearing, then there's the closing, then getting it, the paperwork and everything into a referendum. We actually missed the deadline. So that's actually what happened. I'm also a little upset. I do read some things on social media. This is not a sore loser type thing because the Republican Party, and now we're pushing this in because that's not true. And again, another comment was made about, which again, it's totally not true because of individual being elected. And I'm just really upset on some of the stuff that gets by armchair experts on social media. But anyways, I just think I want to hear from what the people in our town, if they want term limits. And I'm all for having this public hearing. Now, again, it's going to be held December 30th. Yes, we don't have the new board on, but we can also extend it and leave it open so that our 2 meetings in January, people can still have the opportunity to come and our new board members can be part of this also. That's all.
Councilmember Bukowski and I had a chance to speak a little bit about this. Was it yesterday? Yeah. And she brought up one of the things I wanted to mention that there's a couple things I think we need to do in terms of adjustments and remedies to certain aspects of the situation. And one of them would be to hold that public hearing open for a bit longer. That if we're going to have a hearing on the 30th of December right before New Year's Eve, I think we have to have a second, even a third opportunity going into the middle of January. It gives multiple opportunities for members of the public to come out, to share their thoughts and feedback, and then the town board can act at that time. I've had a Saul on the road to Damascus kind of moment about term limits. And when I first was elected to public office, I was like, we have term limits and they're called elections. And over the course of about 8 years now, I've thought about what happens when you have members of Congress in office for 40 plus years, or folks in the state legislatures or county offices. And at some point you want to give an opportunity for new folks to get involved. And there's a lot of new folks on this board. So it's easily an argument against term limits. If you set term limits for Congress, you can get folks out of there that are calcified and really dug into their districts, and they can draw their own borders after a while. At the town, it's a little bit different because we all run at large. It's the same borders. It's just different people every year going to vote. I'd argue that they're less necessary at the local level than they would be up on high. You have people that are involved in office for a real long time that can carry good legislation that helps to change things and get some good things done. One of the things they're talking about at the federal level has to do with banning members of Congress from trading stock. And some of the people involved have been in Congress for 20, 25 years. They have the latitude, the room, the freedom to say, let's ban it. And you have people that are on opposite ends of the political spectrum working together on an issue like that. Term limits arguably can put more power in the hands of lobbyists in Congress because it takes time to get used to things and all that. But I think the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. That's my opinion on that at the federal level. We have 80,000 people in this town, and I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of opinions about term limits. Holding those hearings open for a while gives folks the opportunity to come here and share their thoughts. And a lot of them are going to share them on social media too. But I think to do this the right way, the most important part of this is to have ample opportunity to share their thoughts and their voice on it. So I am in favor of going to a public hearing, but I'm looking at section 33, I think it's 33.3 here. And as I understand it, the 3-year terms that our newest board members would be elected to, and the 3-year terms the group elected in 2027 would be elected to from 2027 through 2030. As I understand how this is written, somebody elected in the end of 25 would be, if they start in 26, their terms through 2034 would be their 2 terms. And then the terms in 2036 from the next class of folks would be, it would start in 20, so it would start 25, I'm sorry, I'm messing it up, 28 to 36, and then 28, and then 28 to 34, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. But the point being is this takes us out to 2036 before the term limits really kicks in. I want to clarify that that's the timeline we're operating. I can restate that if I need to, because whether it's the sponsors or the town attorney, if anybody can confirm that the way the math would play out on this and the way the 3-year terms are lined up, that somebody can serve for 8 years starting in 2028 or 2030. And as late as 2038, people could be in office where the term limits would finally apply to them. Is that a fair understanding of this? Or are we including those 3-year terms as a full term?
I would, in a perfect world, like to see it, you can start it right now and say, yeah, this term that I'm currently sitting in would be my first term, and not to exceed 2 terms in one position. Because, yeah, if you're starting this in 10 years from now, it kind of defeats the purpose. I think the goal is, you become complacent. If you're sitting at this table for 3 terms, you become complacent. You may not admit that, but you're not looking for the things that you look for in that first term that you may have. So, I would like to see it, whether it's a 3-year term or that can count as a full term, but I think it should be something that's, a little bit more effective now.
Okay, yeah, so I'm taking that as it doesn't apply to the 3-year term. I'm not trying to be difficult, but let's say we run for re-election in 27 together and we both win. We would have a 3-year term at that point. The way I read this is that if we were to get elected again from 2030 through 2034, and then 2034 through 2038, we would be term limited out 13 years from now. Is that a fair understanding of it? Like in our particular example. And then for the folks that just got elected, they would be termed out in 2036 if we did it, this version of it.
Well, if we amend it, just my thought, I think it should just be 2 terms. I'm not looking to cheat the system and say, oh, well, you only had a 2-year term and you can run for another 4-year.
Yeah,
that's my hope.
I'm just asking what's literally in here, so that way when we go to public hearing and people are asking, because the question will come up, is this, because as I understand the term switch to even years, for the purposes of the pension system, they're counting that 3-year term as a 4-year term. So, it's a full term in certain senses, and like in other ways, it's truncated shortened by a year. But 3-year term is a full term under the change of the state law. So, we could take this to public hearing, and that's one of the amendments that we can make to it, after we get the feedback from the public. Councilmember Benchkowski was looking to speak.
Well, I think, why couldn't we amend this resolution tonight? And on section 33-3, term limits established, take out the word 4 years. It says no elective public office serve the town of Cheektowaga shall have more than 2 consecutive full terms each, and not even mention 4 year. Put full term, whatever the full term is. Because it could happen again sometime in the future. And also take out the last sentence in that paragraph, any terms of office shall held prior to November 26 shall not be counted, and put language, something to the effect of what Bruin had mentioned about effective immediately, or, you know, anybody in current office term shall count. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you just got elected to. I mean, I'm not doing this for personal.
No. So the way it's written now, if you eliminated the, 4-year term, terms of 4 years, eliminate that part, because this next one will be a 3-year term. So I'm just looking at, for example, myself. I won't be here friggin' 8 years from now. But it says, if you eliminate, that was one of my questions, because it's not a 4-year term, it's a 3-year. So how does that change this all up? But that last line there, it says any terms of office held prior to the November 2026 election. So that's next year's election, meaning in reality, the 1 year is not counting then. Like this election just happened for, I would say the 2025 election, if we're going to go that route. Because that's really the start is January 1. If you're going based off the 2026 election, which no board members, it's the judges, which is a whole different law, different ruling. So I say that just muckies the water a little bit when you have November 2026 election in there, because it's not a start of a term, for a new election.
Larsky, I think you just take it out for now. And if, at least it's a little more solid of what you're looking at for people to speak on. And then you can also amend it after. And the board can add whatever they wanted to.
I'm not concerned with any of this language right now because we have not had the public hearing. So I'm all for a public hearing. Let's go forward with it. So logistics of it all, after we listen to the residents,
And we can just do
find
the
out by
amendments.
law what we could do in the process, because if it may have to go to the Attorney General's office, it may have to go, there's whole other steps to this. So right now we're focused on a public hearing. I'm all for it, but I think we need to clean this up a little bit.
I think the priority is hearing from the public on this, so I'm comfortable with moving the exact language to public hearing. We have an opportunity to make changes on it. When we get to the pre-clearance stage, and I want to say this clearly and carefully, and for no one up here to take offense to this, because there was campaigning in 2023 on this idea of term limits. It is not new. It's new that there's a resolution here. When we get to the pre-clearance stage, one of the things we're going to have to contend with is that this was filed just a couple of weeks after an election was certified, where a woman of color was elected to the board. I am not saying that that's the intent of the guys that filed this. I get that it's not. It's part of the fact pattern, though, that we're going to have to deal with. Like you mentioned in the summer, and there was a campaign event in 2023 where this was brought up in background discussion and discussion on social media about term limits. It's not like this is a brand new idea, but it's my view, and maybe the attorney can add to it, that if we have to get pre-clearance for things like changing polling sites and things like that, we're going to have to get pre-clearance for something like this because it's limiting the options of voters. Anything that is taken as making things, restricting voters' rights, making possibly more difficult to vote, limiting options, limiting choice, limiting freedom. We're going to have to run through them. Like if we were to go to a DPW, for example, I would think that would have to go to pre-clearance as well, because we're taking away the ability of the voters to choose an elected office. I mean, it's possible on the flip side of the coin, if we had a DPW where we wanted to elect a highway super, that we can just do that without that. And we can just go ahead and implement something like that. I don't know the answer to those questions.
Mr. Supervisor,
You have an attorney.
I spoke with the AG's office today on this issue, and we are not subject to pre-clearance for term limits. Mr. Bork was correct. This is a mandatory referendum item. This is not, you can't vote it if you don't get enough signatures. This would have to be on as a referendum in order to install term limits. But this is not a pre-clearance item. So the AG's office will not look at us and tell us that we can or we can't. This is up to the board and the voters.
Great, that's good news. All right.
Sorry, one thing to think about also as we look at the language of this is, I know putting in year numbers kind of makes it a little sketchy and hairy too, but what, for example, let's say right now we've got, Steve's coming in, filling a 1-year vacancy. Does that count as a term? Or do we, anything, prior, is it at least a half a term has to be available or whatever? I don't know those answers. That's something we need to talk about and negotiate and figure out what. Got 1 year in the seat now. So would that be one term already for Diane because she's got 1 year in that seat, or would it be one term for Steve who's going to do the other half of that term because you have to hold a special election when filling a vacancy? So what do vacancies fit on this?
I did 1 year, and if I would have won, it would have been 3 years. So I've been doing 4 years, but it counts 2 terms.
But it had 2 terms, and if we didn't, spell it out correct, fully here.
Yeah.
So I don't know the direction we all want to go yet, but after we hear the public and we start clearing it, just things to think about on this.
Just to get clarity from our town attorney, if you would. So as far as the amendments that we spoke of, do you see any issue changing those after public hearing? Because I know after public hearing, you can be limited to changing things too much.
I think you can change these as many times and as widely as you want in any direction. This is going to be on the ballot if it is approved by this board in the November election. You've got a lot of time to make as many changes as you want and to have as many public hearings as you want on those changes. But anything that is considered substantial, if it's not just a de minimis change, would trigger another public hearing.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carries.
Resolution 2025-830 is carried. Resolution 2025, actually, we're going to go back to Resolution 2025-827, the warrant. Mr. Kraus has come up with new numbers for us. So the highway fund is now $700,047.37. And the HUD CDBG fund line is now $68,934. Total warrant is $9,630,096.80. Resolution 827 as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We will move on to Resolution 2025-835, sponsored by Councilmember Pilarski, seconded by Supervisor Noack. The Highway Department owns and operates a Vermeer HG 6000 horizontal grinder. On October 29th, 2025, the aforementioned grinder was damaged by the Highway Department yard when a high lift being operated by a Highway Department employee backed into the rear end of the said grinder. Vermeer is hereby authorized to perform the needed repairs to the Highway Department's Vermeer HG 6000 horizontal grinder for the itemized estimate that was provided for the cost of $17,871.43.
All right, on the question?
Like to table?
Okay, there's a motion to table. Is there a second?
Motion by Councilmember Benchkowski, second by Councilmember Bukowski to table the item. Resolution 2025-837, sponsored by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Councilmember Bukowski. Erie County bid and award a contract for the purchase of trucks and heavy equipment parts and repairs for the period of April 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2026. Contract number 250100-004. This town board hereby approves the purchase of one new and unused Fisher 8-foot 6-inch V-plow for the use by the Facilities Department to commit Kaminsky and Sons Truck Equipment of Buffalo, New York, 14206 for their bid price of $7,800.
On the question, this item and the next item, I wanted to pull from the agenda because while we have new trucks, we have existing plow equipment. I did get I asked the question about this last week. I did get a write-up with a fair explanation as to why this plow was sought. I had a chance to talk to the department head at our central garage today, and we were getting into the cost of the mounts and control modules and some of the other details that have to do with retrofitting an old piece of equipment to a new truck. And we're talking about a $7,800 piece of new plow equipment, and that, the cost to take existing equipment can run you somewhere between $1,500 to $2,000 if you're going on the cost of a mount to switch it over, and then having to get a new control module to put the old equipment on. To me, that's considerably less than getting the new plow equipment. I would like to look into this a little bit more. I'm not at a position right now where I'm comfortable personally approving the purchase for either of these plow setups, and I'd like to make a motion to table 837. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion to table by the supervisor, seconded by Councilmember Benchkowski. Resolution 2025-838, sponsored by Supervisor Nowak, seconded by Councilmember Filipski. Erie County bid, awarded contract for the purchase of trucks and heavy equipment parts and repairs for a period of April 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2026. Contract 250100-004. This town board hereby approves the purchase of one new and unused Fisher 8-foot 6-inch V-plow for the use by the Sewer Maintenance Department to Kaminsky and Sons Truck Equipment of Buffalo, New York, 14206 for their bid price of $7,800.
Same reasoning here as the prior item. I'd like to make a motion to table.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Question.
Councilmember?
Yeah. So we have two different departments that are in need of plows. I'm just wondering where this equipment that's available for them to use without purchasing something came from. So did we just have extra plows just laying around that is still good to be used?
I hope, and I don't know the answer to this, is that we do have existing trucks in the department with existing plow packages. My hope is that even though we're getting new trucks, we can use the existing plow equipment and retrofit it to the new trucks. In talking with folks about this, part of the concern would be that you have to spend some money to put old equipment on a truck, which I understand. And additionally, concern would be that you have this new truck, this new great piece of equipment. Why would you want to put aged equipment on this? If you ask some of the dealers, they may say, hey, this plow package is going to last you 7 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. It may be the case that the plows are well in excess of 10 years old. And one of the trucks in the facilities department was brought up as an example of a newer truck with an older plow, and the downside of having that pairing off. But again, I don't know enough about this to commit the town to spending over $15,000 on two plow packages right this second. So I would personally like to learn a little bit more.
Thank you for your response.
I have a motion by Supervisor Nowak to table the item, second by Councilmember Bukowski. Resolution 2025-845, sponsored by Councilmember Pilarski, seconded by Supervisor Nowak. Cheektowaga Police Club is aware of the burden and responsibilities of the Town of Cheektowaga Town Board to project and forecast future budgets, especially in accounting for and projecting redemption of accumulated time upon member retirements. Resolution 2025-185, the town board approved the voluntary reduction of vacation time converted to longevity step for the chief of police. And Resolution 2025-543, the town board approved the voluntary reduction of vacation time converted to the longevity step for the captains and lieutenants. Now the town board would like to additionally alter the contract for the Cheektowaga Police Club for the same reasons, with a mandatory reduction from 30 to 10 days of annually accrued vacation time at 30 years, and the value of such reduced amount converted into an additional longevity step. Additionally, an identical but optional reduction would be permitted at 21 years of service during the sellback request period initiated in the prior year. Section 6.02A longevity pay will be modified. Supervisor of the town of Cheektowaga is hereby authorized and directed to execute an MOA reflecting these terms and conditions, subject to the approval of the final MOA by the town attorney.
On the question?
Yes, please forgive the intrusion here. We had submitted a different resolution for consideration here. This is not, this was originally submitted, but there were some changes made both to the MOA and to the resolution. This is not the final version of the resolution. It's not how it's supposed to read. I'm not suggesting that anybody in the room is going to balk at this, but I would ask you, because I don't have it with me, I would ask you to consider tabling this so I could get you the resolution that we drafted. I'm not sure where the disconnect is, probably in my office in all fairness, but we had drafted a final version of this. Some of the facts in here and the dates in here are incorrect.
Actually going to bring that up. There was a different version of this.
Yeah.
I'm all for tabling it just so nobody's voting blind on it. In addition to, there's no confusion to saying, hey, it's the other version and this is what's shown up in the minutes. So as one sponsor of this, I say we table this till next meeting. And then actually it wouldn't even be tabled. Wouldn't it be pulled? Because then we'd just input the correct resolution then at this point.
That's fine too, either way.
Yeah, I think the safest bet is let's just pull this resolution and
I
have
agree.
the fresh, clean, the way it should be, and not monkeying around at the next meeting with it.
Resolution 845 is pulled by the sponsors. We did have one item that came in after the deadline. I need a motion and second to waive the rules to include Resolution 2025-853 to the agenda. Is there a motion?
Make the motion.
Mayne?
Second.
Kularski? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2025-853 is sponsored by Supervisor Noack, seconded by Councilmember Pilarski. This town board hereby awards the bid for the tipping of solid waste at a transfer station or waste-to-energy facility for the town of Cheektowaga to Waste Management of New York LLC of West Seneca, New York.
Okay, on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Our resolution items tonight. Communications received by the town clerk's office include departmental communications, minutes from the Environmental Advisory Committee of October 29th and November 26th, 2025. General communications included 4 notices of claim.
Next, we have public comment period. This is an opportunity for residents to comment on matters involving the town of Cheektowaga. Each speaker may speak only once. Each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. We have 1 speaker signed up. That would be Gary Bork.
One of the complaints I've heard other residents, not just me, other residents say, is we don't get back and forth. We come up, make comments, you guys make comments, but there's no back and forth. And that's understandable. That's not what the town board meeting is supposed to be for. So I understand that. I don't have a problem with it. But by God, don't discount social media. If somebody says something you don't like, don't call them an armchair, whatever. Get on there and respond. You're free to respond. Armchair. When I post something on social media about this town, I do the research, both factually and legally, and I think about it and I reason it out. And any of you that don't like what I say, feel free to comment. The public would love to hear it. Instead of commenting from your armchairs after the meeting's over with. Term limits, I hope we get them. But, they are self-effectuating. Anybody who believes in term limits, you don't have to run for re-election. We have one councilman who really believed in downsizing, apparently. He's taken it upon himself to do so. I think we need a resolution to claw back some of that money. I want to remind you that we had a special meeting called to try and put a referendum on for the district vote. You were going to put a referendum on for districts last year. 3 of you didn't show up for that meeting and it couldn't go forward. So I don't want to hear lectures about not being on time for things. And finally, you should have a public hearing on all these things. You should have had a public hearing on the tax cap too. There was no reason not to listen to the citizens. There's no reason not to listen to the citizens on term limits. There was no reason not to listen to the citizens on the public hearing on tax cap. But with that, happy holidays to all. Have a good one. And hopefully we'll all see each other into 2038.
Okay, Mr. Collinger, come on up. Merry Christmas, sir.
Merry Christmas. Okay, we did a lot of talking here about CBAs that everybody's supposed to have, but guess what? The only way the public gets them is when I foil them and they get sent to me. For the life of me, I don't know why this town will not put the CBAs up on the town's website. What's the big secret? If you can have them, we can have them. We are the same. You put your pants on just like me. We voted you in. You need to share that stuff with us. It's public information. You negotiate them, we get to see them. Almost every other town, or at least every town I am aware of, puts them online. Amherst puts them online, Waseneca puts them online. It's no secret in those towns what the collective bargaining agreements are. They're PDFs, put them up there so we all can read them if we want to read them. So everybody's on the same page. Let's go to Mr. Rusiniak. He could be the poster child for going to a public works system. Okay, I voted for him. I'm sad I voted for him. He's been a disgrace. He is a rogue person. He doesn't want to follow the laws. I'm not even going to say rules because they're laws. He doesn't want to follow them. He wants to do things his way, spend any money he can, whether he has approval or not. What are his penalties for doing this? Mr. Attorney, does he have any penalties?
You want me to tell you right now what this board is going to do to penalize the guy?
No, I want to know what can be done when he doesn't follow the laws and he's spending money. What can be done? I think I already know the answer, but for the people watching on TV, they probably don't know it. They should hear it. He's an elected official.
There's two ways to get rid of him. Don't elect him next time, all right? Or it's an enormously high burden to have him removed. Enormously high burden.
Okay, but how do you get him removed unless he's committed a crime?
It's very difficult, and that's one of the high hurdles that need to be proven.
Right. So we go back to, like I said, he could be the poster child for going to Public Works. And then the town board can micromanage the Public Works Commissioner all they want. Okay. This was brought up, but I'm going to mention it again. New York State Board of Elections, or whoever in Albany, anyway, they said when they went to the 3-year stuff, they were going to be considered 4-year terms. Okay, so that shouldn't matter, the 3 years. It's considered 4 for that. I think it should be considered 4 for ours because the state has already said they're going to be considered 4-year terms. So now you just got to figure out the verbiage of whether you go to terms and years or a combination of the two. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Other towns have already done this, but they did it before, well before the 3-year or the even election year stuff came in. West Seneca, I know, is one of them. There's a few other towns. Amherst, I believe, also has term limits. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let's go and look at what they have already written and go from there. Thank you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Dan, I wanted to speak to your first comment about the CBAs. I think earlier in the year you brought this up, and I agreed we'd get it done. So I'm going to take ownership of that one. That's on me. I'll get to work with folks. I can't promise to have enough tomorrow morning. We'll get them up. I did say previously we would make that happen. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have been said that haven't happened yet. And guess what? I may not have got elected, but it doesn't mean I'm going away. Have a good day.
All right. Any other takers for public comment? Okay. Seeing none, hearing none, we're going to move on to final order of business. That'll be supervisors' comments. We had a tree lighting last week. I know Mr. Thompson was there, Ms. Bukowski, saw Councilman Polarski as well. We had state representatives that were there. There was a pretty good turnout from the public, and I think the kids and all the folks there had a lot of fun, and I appreciate you guys coming out and for, this entire board for being supportive of the tree lighting over the years and doing something real great for our people. Our next meeting is December 30th, so I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday season. The EAC, the Environmental Advisory Committee, the next meeting was scheduled for December 31st at 2 p.m. That has been moved to January 7th at 2 p.m. Right, Dan? All right, we got it. And that's all I've got. So council member comments. We'll start with Mr. Polarski and sweep across.
Dave, nice to see you. Welcome back. Missed you front and center. I'm glad to see you here. Just wish everyone Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays. There's a bunch of holidays there, so I don't want to miss any if I start going through a list here. So let me just scale it back. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Same for me. Same thing that Councilmember Pilarski said. Merry Christmas, everyone. And next meeting is not until December 30th.
Couple things. So earlier, I got a little frustrated about being cut off about discussion about the MOU, and there's not, one of the reasons I did, there's not many points where the public gets to hear us have these discussions. So I think it's important, we used to be here until 10 o'clock at night. So, to talk for another 15 minutes about something that's, I feel is very important, and obviously the public wants to know, I think we should just keep that in consideration. And I was told tonight that the CBA was public knowledge, even though it's not on the website. And lastly, to reference a meeting that we did not attend last year, I'm pretty certain that was a special meeting, and I take a great deal of value in not missing meetings. So if it was a regular board meeting, I would have been here, but I am 98% certain that was a special meeting that was called very last minute. So like I said, I take this duty that I've been elected to very serious. Would not have missed a meeting or just skipped a meeting just for fun. That's all I have to say. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. And that's it. Thank you.
Just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I hope everyone has time to enjoy with their family and friends and be safe. And also I want to say a special thank you to all the town employees, to our police force, our first responders for everything that they do every day.
I'd like to start off by thanking the supervisor and his staff for throwing together that proclamation. Judge Wannett, we're all very close to Judge Stevens. Probably nobody more so than Judge Wannet. He's kept the court going. He's been a staple by the judge's side, keeping us informed of what's going on. Meanwhile, taking care of his own life besides his personal stuff. So thank you, John. You've been very strong, and I'm sure Dave's family appreciates it. Thank you a lot, very much to Southline. You saw the attendance they had. It's not easy leaving your house to go help a stranger, especially somebody in cardiac arrest. They don't tell you who it is. They don't give you a name of a person when they paid you out to go to a call. So you don't know. It's even that more traumatizing and shocking when it is somebody you do know that you're very close to. Not that you work any less, but it's just another little tick that you have to go through. These people do it for free, and they keep the town going, along with everybody else, the workers, dispatchers, firemen, cops, us once in a while. But be appreciative of them. No matter what happens going forward, they bought him a couple more months. It just wasn't his time. But they did a lot more than people know, to get him where he's at, which is miraculous. If you know anything about first aid, cardiac arrest, and CPR and things of that nature, it's heroic. As firefighters, you're not happy, but sometimes the goal is to just get somebody a couple days with their family. So you get people from out of town or in the hospital. It's been months. He's a walking miracle. So be grateful, hug your loved ones, be happy who you're with. Like we say, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. But take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. That, I did want to make note that there are fire district elections tonight for commissioners. So there's voting until 9 p.m. at your fire hall here in town. So take advantage of that. I'd like to make...
Can I ask, since you're looking at that, were there any public comments at all?
There was one for public comment. I think it had to do with a street sign. I didn't read it out here, but I did address it in the comments. I can't get the damn thing to scroll back up. But I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. The town board has to enter attorney-client privilege with no action to follow. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, second for Mr. Thompson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. No action to follow.